The following program has been rated NC-17 by the RIAA Certification Board.
But why?
Because this movie has naughty language.
No persons under the age of 17 will be admitted without parent or legal guardian. And now, the feature presentation.
Drinks in the air, what's up, what's up? Hey yo, where's the fat girls at? Let me hear you fat girls. Oh, I hear them cowbells, here come them fat girls, baby. Check it out. It's 9 o'clock and it's getting dark. Everybody party in the trailer park, so grab your past blue ribbon and raise it high. Represent where you're from, double wide till I die.
Take a pound of weed and pick the jack. Heading to the spot where the party's at. So let's roll one up and pass it around. It's a trailer park, baby, and we always down.
Him and John Deere heading back to the spot where the party is jumping and the girlies is hot. Grab your bottle of moonshine, raise it high. Represent where you're from, like trash till I die.
Got that trucker hat straight into the side. Yo, it's cause that's how I fucking ride. Always high, every night. So we can roll one up, make sure it's tight.
Bitch, come on, right, friends are coming over tonight.
White trash knows I'm falling.
I need a country girl with a great big smile, tips for days and ass for miles. So come over here, baby, and grab a cup. And after a while, I'll fill you up. Music cranked up to 102. We got Johnny Cash and Motley Crue. Trucks jacked up all the way to the sky. You get a nosebleed and don't ask why.
So pour one more and pour it strong. We need another blunt before we end this song.
And now here is your host, the Hillbilly Jedi, Lee Money.
White trash knows I'm falling. White trash knows I'm falling. White trash knows I'm falling. Now if that ain't psych word, you can suck my dick.
Mic check, mic check. Hello? Are we recording? Does this shit still work after all this time? Hello out there. What's going on, everybody? It's been a while. It's been a while since we have been here. It's been a while since this show has been around. It has been a while since I have been back with you. And you know what, guys? It feels so damn good to be back. Welcome back into Money's Crazy Mind. I am your host, the Hillbilly Jedi, Lee Money. What's going on, everybody? We are not the asylum anymore. Oh, no. I don't even know what the hell we'd call ourselves now. Maybe we should put it to a vote. I don't know. We'll get to that maybe in a future episode. But for right now, we're back. We're the best. We're the beautiful. We're the only Money's Crazy Mind podcast. And you know, guys, 2025 became a really difficult year. Not just for myself, but for my wife, my family, and then plus the mi familia that I like to call my friends, my extended family, the family that makes me who I am. You know what? I'm a Jedi, right? I mean, this works. This works for a hillbilly Jedi, right? I mean, you know, you got the hood for the Jedi robe, but you got the flannel to kind of show that you a little hillbilly. We'll give it a shot. We'll see how it goes. If it gets too hot, go bye-bye. But anyway, 2025 became no, we're not going to start over. I'm not Sheldon Cooper. But it did become a really difficult year, not just for me, not just for my wife, not just for my actual family, but my mi familia, my friends as well. And it caused a lot of changes in me, inside, up here, in here. And at one point, I started questioning, do I even want to do this anymore? Like, is Money's Crazy Mind something that I want to continue? Is it something that I need to continue? Is there some burning desire, not like the skull guy over there, but is there some burning desire inside of me that makes me go, I gotta do this show? And for a minute, the answer to that question was no. So I started thinking about it, and I'm just like, do I really want to continue doing this? And I started weighing some different things. And when the thought came to just completely shut this whole thing down, no more show, I called somebody and I said, hey, this is what I'm thinking. And, they asked me why. And I gave them the reasons. And they're just like, well, listen, like, we really like the show. There's a lot of us that really like the show. And it would be a misfortune. It would be a tragedy if you were to not do the show anymore. Take some time. Really think, is this what you want to do? Do you want to shut the show down? If that's the decision that you decide to make after really taking some time to think about it, I'll accept it. I'll back it up. I'll support it. But if you can still find reasons to do the show, then you have to give it one more shot. So I went to the outside world and I said, world, take a look at this. Take a look at this video that I made. And I started showing some people some of the stuff that I had put together for episodes of the show that never aired from the before times. And they're like, man, this stuff is really good. Like, you've got a real knack for this. I said, okay. That's a reason to keep the show going. But these thoughts kept coming into my head, and this overwhelming sense of failure just kept coming into my head, and I'm just like, yeah. But nothing I've done in the past 3 months has been watchable. Nothing. Not a damn show I have done in the past 3 months has been something that I would have ever put out in the past. Why? And I started thinking, And I tried telling myself, like what is it that is making these shows not as good as something that I would normally put out? So the quality of topics sucked. Sorry about that. The video quality just wasn't where I wanted it to be. We obviously didn't have access to a green screen the way I wanted it to be. So we were using a virtual green screen and it just wasn't giving the effect the way that it needed to be. And I just kept saying, I'm okay with it. So there were certain things that were happening that, even I knew, like, this isn't up to Nameless Faceless production standards, and go figure, the logo went right by when I said that. But this isn't up to the standard that Nameless Faceless Productions would normally put out. This isn't up to Money's Crazy Mind standards. This isn't up to the standard of anything that I would normally do. So why am I doing this? But then I started thinking about it, and I'm just like, okay, but what were the positives? Because there were positives. Because people were telling me that there were positives. They would see some of the videos that I were putting together, like the intro video to the Halloween episode that I wish you guys could have gotten to see. And I didn't put a year on it. So we might use it this year. But that Halloween spooktacular video that I put together for last year is probably one of the best things I've ever put together. And then I started thinking about, like, the way that the show was being put together with the after thing that I was using and everything like that. And I'm like, okay, there's a lot of positives here. Like, just tweaks needed every once in a while. And then we got something. So check another one into the box of reason to keep doing the show. I don't know if you guys have noticed or not, but there's a little bit less of me physically. Like there's less of this. The face is less round and more oval shaped than the last time you guys saw me. Not only that, but the glasses are gone again. I got my contacts back. Fucking hallelujah to that, man. My hair's a lot shorter. I started making a lot of positives into my own personal journey. And that was the major catalyst that started making me go, let's do this. As I started getting my health in order, I started realizing, you know what? I got one more run. I got one final run in me. And if this is going to be the final run, we're going to do it right. And we're going to do it completely different than we've ever done it before. Nothing. Except for music. And we'll talk about that. But nothing. None of the elements that existed on this show in the past. I mean, other than the logos, because they're the logos. I mean, I'm sorry, that's what the logos look like. Is going to be the same. The Asylum, I blew that motherfucker up. Too hot to handle, too cold to hold. You call the Ghostbusters because they're in control. Lee, motherfucking Money, he's still around. But he's just not here right now. What? And just I said, if we're going to reboot this thing, I said this to myself. I'm like, self, if we're going to reboot this thing, we're going to reboot it right. So it's time to get off the high horse. It's time to shit or get off the pot. So let's do it. What do we need to rebrand, reboot, restart Money's Crazy Mind from as if this show never existed up to making it a podcast that Nameless Faceless Productions, Blood for Money Pictures, but more importantly, myself would be willing to put out to the airwaves. So, first thing was first. You know, we've been using the laptop that we use for like everything for years for the show, even when I was still at Redline Radio, when I would do the show from home. And I'm like, let's not do that anymore. If we're going to do this, let's get a dedicated PC that is just for the elements of this show. Done. Purchased. There is now a computer that is for nothing but Money's Crazy Mind and video editing. And the only reason why it's for video editing is because I edit this show before I put it out on the air. What's next? What else do we need? Let's upgrade the lighting. Ding. We got 2 brand new theater film quality LED lights to help illuminate things here. What else can we get? You know what? Let's get some new cameras. So we purchased the new camera because the other camera we had is a 2K camera. So that one's still good, but I wanted something else. And in the future, as soon as we get a couple other things that are on back order right now, you know, sorry, weather, Christmas, you know, those things happen. But as soon as we get some of the other upgrades that are coming, we're going to be able to do a little bit of a wider shot. And we're also going to be able to use both cameras. So stay tuned for that because I think you guys are going to love that. And I said, let's update the sound equipment a little bit, just a little bit, because we had great sound equipment before. I just needed that little extra, right? So that's exactly what we did. I contacted the man, the myth, the legend, Tito from Four Loko, and I said, hey, brother, this is kind of what I want to do. What can I do that's cost effective, but it's going to up the game? And he's just like, I got you. And we purchased, we got, and now I think we're at this level with sound. The microphone I had has always been top grade. So, like, the microphone stayed the same. We need a new mic stand, but we're working on that. I was playing with a couple of different mic stands to see if I liked some of the ones that I already had. I hate them all. I'm just being honest. I hate them all. So, upgrades complete. So we're on our way. And I'm just like, all right, step 1 complete. You know, kind of like the underpants gnomes. So what do we do now? So we got part 1, upgrades. So what's part 2? Part 2 is putting the show together. Part 2 is, what is the show going to look like? What is the show going to sound like? Are there things that we did in the original version of this show that deserve to be back. And I started thinking about it, and I'm just like, maybe there are things from that original version of the show that we could bring back. And I'm just like, but do I really want to do that? I'm like, I've been promising people this is going to be a brand new version. No, I said brand new, so we're doing completely brand new. So that's exactly what we're going to do. I'm going to stick to my promise because that's just who I am. I like sticking to my promises, But then step three was probably the most important step out of all of this. And once I was finally able to get that done, oh, by the way, green screen. We got the green screen back. Professional green screen. So, boom, we got that. Like I said, we're going to be doing some shit with the green screen. So, stay tuned for upgrades with that. Still, like, I'm working on things, guys. Like, I have ideas. Like, they're just in here and they need to come out, or my head's going to end up looking like the new logo guy. Okay. But the most important thing was, if I'm going to do this, and if I'm going to do this right, I got to get back to the person that I was right before I got to Redline. And that's not to say that the person that I was at Redline isn't like, for the first few years, the person that I was at Redline was still that guy. I still had that passion. There was still something about those episodes that just made me go, I love this shit. But as time started going on, like, a lot of that passion went away. And I've told that story before, so I don't really want to go back and rehash the past. But I'm just setting things up, right? And then when I left, a lot of that passion came back, because I'm just like, now I have to prove it to a completely different audience that I'm still that guy. And that everything that people were saying about me isn't the truth. And I just started biting off more than I can chew. As time went on after I left Redline, I started just biting off a little bit more than I can chew. And I didn't realize it until I started getting healthy. And it caused rifts. It caused problems with people that I respect and people that I have a lot of admiration for because of the things that they accomplished and because of the visions that they had or have. Like, their visions aren't done yet, as far as I know. But it caused them to lose respect for me. And that's 100% on me. I can blame different situations, but ultimately, I didn't have the mental and I didn't have the physical to look at those issues and say, sorry. I did to an extent. And we would get them fixed. But then the very next week, a whole new problem would arise. Or the same problem would come back, but it would come back a different way. And it's just like, well, what the fuck are we doing here? So during this journey of wellness, I learned some of this equipment a little bit better. a little bit better than I learned it before. And that's why I felt so confident in being able to come back and putting out a better product than what I was putting out before. And the more I see my own results and the more that I, put these elements together and come up with the new concepts and the new logo, the new theme video, all of it, I see, and I mean, it's like I even took it to the extreme when I was trying to prove myself in saying, okay, I'm gonna buy a bunch of shit that I don't really need right now. Um, and I'm gonna learn it, and I'm gonna try to figure out what's causing these problems. And I figured them out somewhat. Problem is that I didn't buy the exact equipment that they have, and I'm just like, okay, I can fix it with my equipment, but can I fix it with theirs? Now, this equipment works almost the exact same way their equipment does, but I don't have the exact same equipment. So while I'm able to get the issues that we were having solved on a much smaller scale, will it work for them? And then all of a sudden, like, I don't want to work with them, and I don't want to do this, and I don't want to do that. And I said, okay, you know what? We need a vacation. We need a vacation from each other. I'm going to walk away. I'm going to keep working. I'm going to keep building. I'm going to keep learning. And I'm going to keep bettering myself to make myself the person that I was. Just better. I'm going to show you that I am still the person for the job. And I'm going to show you that we can make everything that you want happen. Amicable. Keep it as amicable as possible. Lisa and I still talk all the time. I've been keeping her up to date on everything. I've been showing her the computer, the lights, the cameras, everything. She knows everything that I've done here to rebuild this show from scratch. And that's exactly why I did it. I brought over certain, I said, okay, here's everything that we've used in the past for this show. What do I want? I went on a Matt Hardy delete session, man. Like, I'm just deleting shit left and right. And I'm like, let's just do everything brand new. And as I started thinking about what the logo was going to look like and what I wanted everything to look like and everything, I realized this was a completely brand new beast. Much like me. I'm a completely brand new beast. But now that everything is being controlled and I'm starting to get healthy again, for the first time in almost 3 years, my blood pressure is normal. As you can tell, there's a little bit less of me physically. At the time of my last doctor's appointment, I had lost 17 pounds. Since then, I'd lost even more. And I'm now down 25 pounds. For the first time in over 3 years, I'm under 300 pounds. And it's just shocking to hear myself say these things because it's just like, what? And the life changes that I've made, I mean, they're not even that drastic. So it's just like, wait a minute, you mean to tell me that this is all I've had to do for all these fucking years? And I could be doing I could have been doing a hell of a lot better health-wise than I have been? Well, fuck. Why didn't anybody tell me this shit back then? But there are certain things that have needed doctor's attention, and we're going to get into a lot of that stuff later on in the show. While this is a rebirth and a reboot, the show has existed for 6 years, and we can't ignore that fact. And I never would. But during this journey of rediscovery and during this journey of rebuilding and rebranding, I discovered a few things about myself that have always been there. But I've just kind of ignored. I don't want to say I've ignored them. I just didn't use them, or I pushed them to the side. And I realized that I was spending so much time upholding this image of myself that I wanted 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years, 10 years ago. That I lost sight of a lot of the parts of myself that I actually enjoy. And as I started bringing them back out, and as I started, saying to myself, if I'm going to get healthier here and here, then maybe it's time to start thinking of things a little bit differently, with my look too. And the first step was, and I tried, but I just can't do it. Sorry, Lisa, I can't. I cut my beard off. And 2 people liked it. 2. And I said, I look 12. I'm done. I'm 41. I don't need to look 12. And then the next step was cutting my hair, which was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. And as time is going on, I'm not missing it. Like, I don't miss having to find a hair tie. I don't miss fighting my cat for a hair tie. I don't miss just all the bullshit that goes into trying to maintain long hair. I just don't. This is kind of a little annoying, but from what I'm seeing on camera, it looks pretty cool. So I think I might keep it a little bit longer than I want, but I am going shorter than what I am right now. So stay tuned for that, guys. But as I started bringing these different aspects in, I'm not allowed to really talk too much about it, but I got a chance to work on a project. And a buddy of mine is just like, would you want to play a U.S. Marshal who is actually, a little bit Southern? Not enough to need an accent, but, Southern enough to where he still has like that Texas Ranger vibe where he wears like a cowboy hat and cowboy boots, but he's a U.S. Marshal. And I'm just like, why not? Yeah. So went and did it. It doesn't look like anything is going to happen with the project, but you know, it was fun to do it. Nice to know I can still act. But when the show was over, I'm just like, can I keep the hat? And he goes, yeah, sure. You know, because I had seen a couple of daily shots, and I'm just like, kind of digging the way I look in that hat. So, you know, I've owned cowboy hats before, and I've really liked the way that I've looked at them in the past too. You know, but back then it was more of just like a, you know, I'm in the Boy Scouts and I got to keep my head safe kind of thing. And I liked the style of more of like an Aussie cowboy hat more than like a traditional cowboy hat, you know, but I've always enjoyed that style of hat. And, you know, so I'm just like, you know what? I want to keep the hat. Can I keep the hat? And he's like, yeah, you know, go ahead, keep it. You know, it was, you know, I just bought it on Amazon, and, you know, who knows how long this shoots, you know, who knows if this thing's going to get picked up or not. And, you know, from the last I heard, it's not. So I don't know what he's going to do with the footage. You know, so if I can get my hands on it, maybe I'll show it. But that was like, that actually came about from an episode of the show that never aired. And I wish I still had the footage from it, but I don't. Fuck. Like, I got a bunch of independent filmmakers together, and we kind of did like a little workshop kind of thing, and we were talking about like projects that were coming up, that they were doing, that they had coming up and everything. And that's how that job came about. That's also how the book that I've been writing. Remember the book that I'm writing? That's how that came about too. Damn, I wish I still had that footage. Fuck. Anyway, I digress on that. But, you know, so I started wearing the cowboy hat, and that's just kind of how it started. Like, I was still, you know, kind of dressing the way that I normally do, like kind of like the way I am now. Like the flannel's a little bit different, but, you know, flannel this time of the year is kind of commonplace because it's fucking cold. And this video behind me, like, yeah, it's fake, but this is kind of what it looks like outside right now in Northeast Ohio. So, like, yeah, man, like, I wear flannel this time of year. Like, fuck you. Anyway, and no, I'm not trying to flash the Superman shirt. Like, that's, but that's a story for another time. I gotta, maybe we'll talk about that. But anyway, like, you know, so I started wearing the cowboy hat, and a couple people questioned it, but these are people that don't know me like very well at all. Like, the friends that I've had for a long time, they're just like, oh, this again? Oh, cool. You know, but hey, man, you know what? It actually looks really good now. Like, we may not have noticed it before, but, you know, we were all trying to be something that we really weren't back then. Or, you know, we all had this facade that we were trying to portray back then. But the hat really actually looks pretty cool, bro. And, you know, I had mentioned it at work, you know, I had mentioned the project at work and everything. And because a couple people at work were kind of just, what's with the hat? Like, you've been here almost 3 years and we've never seen you wear a cowboy hat before. What's with the hat? So I told, you know, I told my team, and I'm just like, you know, this is kind of how it came about. And quite a few people were just like, it actually looks really good on you. You look really handsome in the hat. And I'm just like, all right, the hat stays. You know, so then I'm just like, I still kind of want to be a little bit of a character for the show, but I don't want to be Lee motherfucking Money, because Lee motherfucking Money isn't a character that I came up with. It's a character that somebody else came up with that I've been adopting for these years since I left Redline Radio. And that's not who I want to be anymore. It, like I said, this is brand new. So, the Hillbilly Jedi was born. And who is the Hillbilly Jedi? A cowboy hat wearing nerd who listens to all the wrong kinds of music, cusses, and just flat out doesn't give a fuck. And the hat that I have, it's pretty bland right now. But as time goes on, the identity of the Hillbilly Jedi is going to continue to keep coming out in the hat. And I can't wait for you guys to see what it's going to turn into. It's going to morph into a hat worthy of the name Hillbilly Jedi. I'm still too hot to handle, too cold to hold. You call the Ghostbusters because they in control. I'm just not Lee motherfucking Money anymore. Because that wasn't something that I came up with. That was something that somebody else came up with for me. And I think that's also part of the reason why I kept the hair, the attitude, and everything else that I'd been keeping with this show for as long as I did, because I was trying to keep with that moniker. So now I just do it a little bit more stylish, you know, with the hat, with the hair, a lot less of it. But these past few months, as this journey of wellness has been going on, I feel a lot better. And I feel a lot better about doing this show. This intro is taking a hell of a lot longer than I thought it was going to, but that's okay. There's been a lot of growth, but there's still a lot more to go. And I can't wait for you guys to continue to see the journey as I continue down it. So there's one more concept that is going into this. And if you guys watch the promo video that we put out, you might have heard me say the phrase, the new 52. So what is the new 52? Well, yeah. Did I steal something from DC Comics? Yeah. But the new 52 was a reboot of DC Comics in the 2010s to streamline and consolidate their titles yet again. But for Money's crazy mind, it stands for the 52 weeks in a year. And it stands for the fact that there's going to be 52 new shows. And it also stands for the fact that every show is going to have the minimum length of 52 minutes. We're almost there already, and we haven't even gotten into a single topic. Now, that 52 minutes does not include the intro. Like I'm talking about right now. We're at 40, almost 42 minutes. And that's without the intro. And there's going to be no breaks unless we go beyond an actual hour. So if we hit the 60-minute mark without an intro, we'll take a break. But lastly, what the new 52 represents is the 0-year initiative. And what 0 year means is the fact that we have completely rebooted and rebranded this show from the ground up. And I'm very proud of this fact. And when I showed a couple of people the new logo for the show, the flaming skull with the sunglasses, the microphone, and the fire in the background with the steel plating and everything like that, they're like, man, that actually kind of looks a little apocalyptic. And I'm just like, you know what? That's exactly what it needed to be. And I didn't think about that when I was putting the logo together. I'm just like, this is what I want the logo to look like. Because it's a restart, it's a rebranding, it's a rebirth. That's why the logo is on fucking fire. Because a phoenix is born from the ashes of itself. And that is what the new logo represents. A rebirth. Being born out of the flames of the old. New year. New me. New revolution. This idea that I was putting time, money, energy, and passion into the complete rebuild of this show and brand from nothing, then it was legit to start over from nothing. Which is exactly why we did what we did. So with all that said, the words of Marilyn Manson come into my head. And white trash, get down on your knees, because it's time for thoughts from a crazy mind. And this week's thought from a crazy mind is Netflix or Paramount? Who is going to be Warner Brothers' new daddy? Netflix and Paramount are in a bidding war for Warner Brothers. And it appears that each is bidding for different items, though. At least that was what the story was when it first started. And looking into what each is vying for is enough to give anyone a migraine. But for me, the craziest part of these deals is that in the past, these transactions, when it comes to buying another studio, have been all or nothing. Disney didn't walk into Lucasfilm and say, hey, we want Star Wars, but you can keep Indiana Jones. They didn't walk in and say, we want Fox, but you can keep Hulu. We want Marvel, but just the comics. You can keep making movies with other studios, but we want the comic books. So the fact that this weird deal is going on to where like Netflix owns like 99.99999% of Warner Brothers Discovery, and then Paramount is like putting out way more money for like 0.000000001% is crazy. And then you find out that that's not what's going on. Like Paramount is just like, no, we changed our mind. If we're going to do this, we want everything. And all of a sudden Warner Brothers is just like, bro, the deal with Netflix is like done. We're pretty much just waiting for the ink to dry. So, bye. And Paramount's just like, well, wait. We've got more money. Will more money make the deal happen? Like, hey, Oracle, Dad, come here. See this guy, this is my dad. He owns Oracle. He can throw some money in too. Like if we give you Oracle money, will Oracle money work? And again, Warner Brothers is like kind of just like bringing in Bugs Bunny and Batman for negotiations. And, Bugs Bunny's just like, what's up, Doc? Like, no, Netflix. Like, we're going to Netflix. We're going to the Stranger Things people. And Batman's kind of just like, half my movies are over there anyway. Why do I care what you have? Like, huh? So, what's up for grabs in this deal is DC Comics, Warner Brothers' entire library, HBO, including the streaming service HBO Max, the Warner Brothers Film Studios, and Discovery, the Discovery Channel networks. When this deal goes live, if it goes live, they had until today to finalize this deal. So I don't know what exactly is happening with if this latest deal from Paramount has been rejected. I mean, I'm sure it has, because Warner Brothers is just like, go away to Paramount. There, at least they have this entire time. But again, they're just like, hi, this is my dad. He owns Oracle, like, right? With this most recent deal. Plus Paramount's got Top Gun and Mission Impossible money. Like, that's just burning a hole in their pockets. Like, I mean, it's like, here's Tom Cruise money. Does Tom Cruise money work? And I mean, even that's just kind of just like, no. And it kind of makes you wonder, like, if Paramount is offering way more cash, like the Netflix is not offering guaranteed cash. Paramount is. What is Netflix offering that is making Warner Brothers go, fuck cash? We want what Netflix is giving us. But it also makes you wonder, like, Paramount's got cash. Can Netflix actually back up everything that it's talking about? Because let's picture this, right? The season finale of, the series finale of Stranger Things, pretty much the biggest thing that Netflix had going for it, aired on New Year's Eve, on December 31st. Cobra Kai, probably the second or maybe third biggest thing that Netflix had, ended last year as well. Their deal with Sony is still kind of up in the air. We've been promised a Ghostbusters cartoon for the last 3 years, and we haven't seen hide or hair of it. But it also has to make you wonder, can Paramount back up their claims, knowing how much money they just dropped to get the exclusive streaming rights for UFC? How much of that Tom Cruise money can they still have left? Now, Netflix did just drop also a significant penny purchasing the WWE. And those rights are different depending on what country you live in. If you live in the United States, it's pretty much just for Raw. But if you look on Netflix recently, there's been a lot of pay-per-views that have been showing up, and they've been the pay-per-views that have been airing on ESPN. Whose deal is better? I'm starting to wonder. So depending on who you ask, the deal may or may not have been a good deal. If you're looking at some of the European and Canadian territories, that WWE deal is pretty fucking sweet. You get Raw, NXT, SmackDown, and all the pay-per-views all in one fucking place. But if you're in the United States, that deal fucking sucks. Because you've got to watch Raw on Netflix, NXT on the CW network, SmackDown on USA, and all the pay-per-views on ESPN. Unless they're NXT, then you have to go and watch them on Peacock. Plus, you've got Saturday night's main event that's still on Peacock. And now that the deal with Peacock is pretty much their entire vault is in purgatory. Some of it is on Netflix or YouTube. A lot of it is still just kind of up in the air. So, yeah, this deal is great for people overseas for Netflix. But for the folks in the United States, it blows ass. And it's the worst fucking deal that WWE has ever done. Period. Personally, I think they should have given the United States rights for the PLEs to Netflix and just said to Disney, but, you know, Pat McAfee had a lot to do with that deal. So, I mean, there's that. But in my opinion, Warner Brothers will be in better hands with Netflix than Paramount. Paramount might not do right by a lot of the IPs, and DC Comics would more than likely just disappear. Now, they might still make movies and animated TV shows and movies and things like that with DC Comics characters, but the actual physical comic books that you buy monthly or every 2 weeks would probably cease to exist. Because I don't know if Paramount would see the value in it. And I kind of wish that DC Comics wasn't part of the deal, but Warner Brothers has owned DC Comics since the 70s, and it's been their IP for a very long time. The funniest part about this would be, if Netflix does end up getting this deal, which it sounds like they are, is that essentially WWE and AEW are going to be streamed by the same company, because HBO Max is now going to be the property of Netflix. So what isn't part of the deal is the television networks. So TBS, TNT, the Discovery networks, a bunch of other television networks are not part of the deal, but HBO Max is. And AEW is streaming on HBO Max. So that pretty much means that Netflix would now be streaming WWE and AEW. So it'll be kind of funny to see how that dynamic works out. But I just think it's funny because it's just like, okay, so who's going to get the better ratings? Is WWE going to be getting the better ratings over on Netflix with Raw and all the other shows that air internationally? Or is NXT, or not NXT, AEW on HBO Max going to do better numbers? But I can guarantee it's probably going to be Raw, because AEW is behind. Kind of like SmackDown on Peacock. Anyone? So according to Warner Brothers and Discovery, the deal with Netflix is done. It's been done for a long time. But however, it's January 21st. I'm sorry. They have until January 21st to respond to Paramount. It does seem like the deal with Netflix is done, and more and more Warner Brothers content appears to be appearing on Netflix, but also other streaming content like Tubi, Hulu, places like that as well. Who will win this bidding war? And become Warner Brothers' new daddy? I guess the coming weeks will tell. I guess they will, but like I said, in my opinion, Netflix will be the better home. Netflix has done a lot of things with a lot of their TV shows when it comes with other mediums. And what I mean by other mediums is like there's a Stranger Things Dungeons and Dragons game. There's a Stranger Things board game. That's like a tabletop board game that's similar to Dungeons and Dragons, but it's not branded Dungeons and Dragons. But they've also done Stranger Things comic books. They've done Stranger Things this. They've done Stranger Things that, but they're Orphan Black and other shows that have been on Netflix have had comic book treatment and other medium treatment, and that's why I think that they would be the better home for Warner Brothers, because they get that there is this possibility that other mediums can be financially good for their brands. And I think that DC would value from that. And James Gunn has already come out and said, whoever buys Warner Brothers, his vision of the DC universe is the one that is going to continue to move forward. Like, they do not have the right to sit there and go, get the fuck out of here, James. We're bringing back Zack Snyder. But I do think if Netflix is still as liquid as I hope they are, and since they do already kind of have a deal with Zack Snyder, once they own Warner Brothers, we might be able to revisit the Snyderverse as kind of like a Elseworlds deal. But with that, we are at 1 hour. Something that I kind of expected it because of the amount of content that we were putting in this particular episode. But let's take a break, and then we'll come back here on the brand new Money's Crazy Mind.
This is for the kids that snort pixie sticks, and this is for the kids that starts fights for kicks, for the millions at home that feel all alone, that cut themselves till the knife hits a bone. I feel just like you. If you feel like me, then let me hear you scream out, Psych Ward family. A 3G system in 1G ride.
All right, we're back. Hour number 2. Didn't expect that, but we're here. But yeah, so we're back. Money's Crazy Mind is back. Didn't know if this was going to be, but I'm glad we're here. I really am glad we're here. And, we, in the first half of the show, we talked about some of the things that I'd been going through health-wise. And, trying to narrow down and figure out what exactly was causing some of the problems that I was having when it came to my blood pressure and some of the other things that I was going through too, like the enhanced depression, the enhanced anxiety, just the forever fatigue that I was having. I was tired from the second I woke up till the second I went back to bed, and then it would just be like this endless cycle. Like I just never felt refreshed. And some of the people that I knew and that I talk to on a daily basis were just like, dude, you're a fucking asshole sometimes. And it cost friendships. It cost some very good friendships. And this journey, it took me through quite a few different health tests. And I think I've talked about some of them in the past. So we'll just break them down somewhat quickly. And I do have a script, but I'm going to try to get away from it a little bit. Like, I'm not going to get away from the topics, but I'm going to get away from the script itself. Just because I think it can be a little bit better that way, right? But, so the first thing so this journey, like I said, it's been just about 3 years, but also 3 doctors. Okay. So obviously doctor number 1, he pretty much just wanted to do, blood pressure medications, try to get me regulated, try to get me normal. And then, when that wasn't working, a friend of my wife's family was looking for new patients, and he's actually a very, very good and very respected doctor. And we said, all right, well, we'll try him for a little bit, or we'll go to him. And he put me on a heart monitor, called a Holter monitor, where it monitors your heart 24/7. And like, if you're having an event or you feel like you're having an event, you can hit a button and it'll register it. And then the person that reads those exams can go back and say, was this an event, or was it just, being overly cautious, or, whatever. And there were really no results from that. Like, everything kind of came back normal. And then they did a stress test. Same thing. Everything kind of came back normal. Like, my heart's functioning normally. My cholesterol was a little bit on the high side, but nothing to be concerned about. But other than that, like, everything is coming back normal. Yes, I'm overweight, and I've been overweight most of my life. So that was no surprise to me. So when he said, I'm leaving and I'm opening my own practice and it's going to be concierge, we reached out to our insurance, and they're just like, we're not paying for that. So then it was time to find a new doctor, and we found a phenomenal doctor. And within like 2 visits with her, I told her everything that was going on, told her everything that we had already tried, told her everything that I wanted to try to accomplish with this. And, I kind of just told her, I'm just like, I just feel like crap. Like, I can't function. I feel like shit daily. Like, just, I'm not myself anymore. I don't know who this person is. And I think it's been going on a lot longer than I thought it had. But just because these other issues had started coming about because of it, I just started realizing it. And, now that I'm on this journey where, everything is starting to clear up and I'm starting to see things differently, and my mind is finally like opening. I don't know why I did that thing, but it worked. I'm starting to think that some of the things that have been happening before are linked to what's going on now. And it's just like a holy shit kind of thing, right? Like, oh my God, but so when I finally told her all this stuff, she's like, has anyone ever told you that you have sleep apnea? Why, no. I mean, yes, but nobody that has any kind of like medical degree or anything like that. And all of a sudden she's just like, I think you might have sleep apnea.
What?
Can the stuff that I'm going through be caused by sleep apnea? I mean, it's like when you hear sleep apnea, obviously the first thing you're thinking of is sleep, right? So how could all this other stuff, the blood pressure, not being able to lose weight, the mood swings, all of that other stuff, and how can that factor into sleep apnea? But so let me ask everybody out there a question. Has a partner or friend ever complained about your snoring? Told you that you stop breathing in your sleep? If you wake up with dry mouth, a sore throat, headaches, if you're still tired throughout the day and not coffee, energy drinks, 5-hour energy shots, anything like that, none of that shit work. Having trouble lose weight, high blood pressure, diabetes problems, breathing problems, like all of a sudden you have asthma, things like that. Any combination of these symptoms can obviously be a million different health things. But they can also lead, believe it or not, to sleep apnea.
What the fuck?
Yeah. That was kind of my reaction too. Like when it kind of came about that, I was going to have a sleep study done and all that. I'm just like, but wait a minute. Like, are you sure? Like all this, it ties into sleep apnea? And then I'm filling out the paperwork that they give you for the sleep study. And it's asking like, do you have this? Do you have this? Do you have this? And I'm seriously just like,
What the fuck?
and as I was getting near the end of the questionnaire, it became less of do you have these things and more of what don't you have? So, like I said, when she asked me if anybody's ever suggested sleep apnea to me before, yes, the answer is yes. My ex at one point had just been like, dude, you stop breathing in your sleep. I think you have sleep apnea. But at the time, I didn't have health insurance, and those tests are expensive. I mean, even with my insurance, that test is expensive. And I guess I just didn't want to tell myself that I could have sleep apnea. So I'd been struggling and suffering silently for the better past. Let's not combine words here. The better part of 20 years without knowing whether or not I actually did have sleep apnea or not. So I go and do the sleep study. And the sleep study, the first time you do a sleep study, you basically just, there's two ways you can do it. You can either do it at home or you can do it in a sleep center. I opted to do it in a sleep center because I wanted to know that there were going to be no distractions. So whatever the results were going to be, they were going to be the results. You know, because I didn't know, maybe I was waking up in the middle of the night, and that's another thing that it can cause. Like if you find yourself waking up randomly in the middle of the night, I didn't know if the waking up in the middle of the night might have been like my wife kicking me or, you know, something like that. But I also found myself urinating frequently throughout the night. Turns out that's called nocturnia, and that's also a symptom of sleep apnea.
Awesome!
Right? But I opted to do my sleep study in center because I didn't want any of these distractions. I wanted to make sure that whatever these results were going to be, they were going to be. And when I got the results back, now obviously I don't know a lot of medical jargon mumbo jumbo because I'm not a doctor and I don't pretend to play one on this podcast. But there are certain words and phrases and things like that that you can pick out where it's just like, I know what that means. And I'm like, oh, fuck. Not only do I have sleep apnea, but I have like really, really bad sleep apnea. And it was at that moment when I started doing the research and I started looking into things. And I'm just like, you know, this is why all that shit's on the questionnaire. Symptoms of sleep apnea. Check. 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 Again, this is a list of what I don't have. You know, you might as well just say, do you not have any of this shit? As opposed to, do you have this shit? Because I'm answering every single question, yes. And I'm just like, holy fuck. So once the results were finalized, you know, my doctor calls me and she's just like, yeah, you have sleep apnea. You have severe obstructive sleep apnea. And you also have central sleep apnea. I'm recommending you to a sleep medicine doctor who is going to figure out what the next steps are going to be. But it's probably going to be a CPAP machine. Let's get on that because I can't live like this much longer. So I meet with him and he kind of verifies everything, you know, the severe obstructive. So as I said, there's two different types of sleep apnea. There's obstructive and then there's central. Obstructive sleep apnea is that there's this thing in the back of your throat. I'm going to try to turn my head a little bit. It kind of goes from here down. And when you're laying down, it's supposed to move like this as you breathe. If you have sleep apnea, if you have obstructive sleep apnea, it's like that. And that's what causes you not to be able to breathe. So basically, you're sitting there and you're sleeping. You're already snoring, so you're already being, you know, a disrespectful asshole because you're snoring. And you're snoring loudly, which some of that could be caused by this doing its thing anyway. But once this thing closes and you're not breathing, what happens is your body has to send a signal to your brain saying, wake up! And then you go, oh shit. And then you breathe. And then you try to fall back asleep. Now, depending on the number of times that happens to you throughout the night, you could never hit REM sleep. And that's kind of where I'm at, where I was at before I started treating it. And I'm just like, whoa. So part of the reason I feel like crap every day is because I'm not even getting into deep sleep. I'm sleeping, but it is not good sleep. Central sleep apnea is even scarier. And this is, I think, more where the CPAP machine comes in than the obstructive. Now, I'll explain how the CPAP machine works here in just a second, but central sleep apnea is your brain misfires and doesn't tell yourself to breathe. So on top of the fact that I have that flappy thingy just going, no, I'm sitting there and I'm sleeping and I'm snoring, but I'm not going to snore because it's loud and it's annoying. And my throat's closed, so I'm already not breathing, but my brain is misfiring and not going, wake up, breathe. So then I'm forcing myself out of sleep where I'm up now for 20, 30, 40, 50 hours even trying to fall back asleep. So complex sleep apnea is basically the combination of both. So that's basically what I have. Now, obviously, the obstructive sleep apnea is the worst of the two. And I think the next time that I meet with him, I'm going to ask him just how bad the central is too, because I'm kind of curious. That's a question I never really asked him, because when he said you have a hybrid or a complex sleep apnea, I'm just like, oh, okay. Okay. Like, I mean, just, oh. But sleep apnea is one of the medical issues that is one of the most commonly undiagnosed medical issues out there. And I asked my sleep medicine doctor why, because I was curious. And because I told him, I'm just like, isn't this something that the other two doctors that I've been seeing over the past 3 years, shouldn't this have been something that they have found? And he goes, yeah, but it's not something that doctors normally look for. And I'm like, well, how is it that I go and see this new doctor and all of a sudden it's like the first fucking question she asks? Like I give her a list of everything that's going on, and then all of a sudden, do you have sleep apnea? And he goes, because they pretty much tried everything else. So there's, it's narrowing down. Like, okay, it's not this, it's not this, it's not this. So what is it? Oh. Okay. Got it. So the response makes sense. But at the same time, it doesn't. And it doesn't make sense. It raised a lot of questions, because it's just like, again, none of these symptoms alone point to sleep apnea. But combine them, like the Wonder Twins or the Planeteers. You don't get Captain Planet. You get a debilitating medical issue that can cause very serious medical issues in the future, up to and including death. So, I mean, again, I'm just like, well, when does it stop being something else and start being sleep apnea? And his answer was pretty much the answer I gave you. Whenever a doctor kind of feels like it does. Oh, okay. I mean, you got to take his word for it. He's the professional, right? He's the guy that spent all kinds of money and went to school for lots of years to get a bunch of letters after his name, right? And before his name, too. But it just seems like that's how it happened with me is, they kind of just went, it's not this, it's not this, it's not this, it's not this. So what can it be? And here we are. So I mean, the stress tests, the heart monitors, the medications, 3 different doctors, before finally being asked and before finally starting to feel better. So after I met with the sleep medicine doctor, he's just like, we're going to send you back for a second sleep study. But this one is to find out which CPAP machine is going to be the best for you. And I'm like, okay, so we're going the path of CPAP. Got it. And I've had other friends that say, the CPAP machine didn't work for me or, whatever, blah, 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 blah. Try this, try that. And I even asked them, because I'm curious, and I want to just like, hey, before I spend, monies on a CPAP machine, could this work? Because this is $20 on Amazon, and he's just like, no, it might give you temporary relief, but it's not going to solve all of your sleep apnea problems. Got it. And then hearing why they weren't going to solve all my sleep apnea problems, I kind of just went, you're the doc. But basically what the CPAP machine does, and I'm not going to sit there and go, CPAP stands for this because I don't remember. But basically it's a machine that you attach to your face, and it sends a constant stream of air down your sinus cavity so that that thing in the back of your throat can't close, so that you're constantly throughout the night. And when I went for that CPAP fitting, when I woke up the next morning, I was like, holy shit. So that's what sleep is supposed to feel like? Huh? And it's like, I got home and like they wake you up at like 6 a.m. from these things, right? I don't start work until 11:30. And at the time I was working from home. So I get home and, I stopped and got myself breakfast because like I'm up for breakfast. So it's like, I want breakfast. But when I got home, I'm just kind of sitting there like, I'm up. I have energy. It's only 7:30. I got 4 hours before I start work. What the fuck am I gonna do? Like, let's I guess throw some birds at some fucking pigs, watch some TV, just did stuff. And it's just like, by the time 11:30 rolled around and I started work, I'm just like, I feel fucking fantastic. Like, this is awesome. And then it was kind of just like, when do I get one? Like, where's mine? I want mine. Gimme. And it took months to get this damn machine. And throughout that entire time, this is the time when like I was just like, fuck this shit. I don't want to work. I don't want to do this show. I don't want to sit there and do, hey, welcome to Sunny Radio 105. You're listening to Money's Crazy Soundtrack, the edited edition, so that it's safe for you and all your little kitty buys. Here's Britney Spears. And I didn't want to be the guy on KZ Radio doing, hey, welcome to Money's Crazy Soundtrack. Here's a brand new one from the Insane Clown Posse, fuckers. I didn't want to do it. But then most importantly, I didn't want to do this. I'm just like, by the time 3 o'clock rolled around, most of the time, I'm sitting there and I'm just like, Okay, can you go to this? Okay, that worked. Okay, great. Yeah, all right, great. So we were able to fix your problem here today. And then I go on my lunch and I go and take a nap instead of eat, and then I come back to work and I'd feel even worse. And throughout this entire thing, I'm going back to the doctor monthly because she wanted monthly updates at that point. And I'm just sitting here, I'm like, when do I get my damn machine? My depression got worse. My moods were horrible. But now that I have everything, I'm yawning now because of when I'm recording this. Like, it has nothing to do with being tired I am tired, but it has nothing to do with like health issues or anything like that. I'm recording this at 2:00 in the fucking morning, okay? And the reason why I'm recording this at 2:00 in the fucking morning is because it's when I was available to do it. Okay? That looks cool, even though it's an artifact. Because I'm in a weird spot with the light. See, look at that. It went away. Now I'm normal yet. I'm really close to the microphone. And it sounds weird. I'm doing this weird thing with my voice. I don't know if I like it. Anyway. But yeah, so finally, I meet with the people. Okay. The reason why it took months to get the machine, right? It took months to get the machine because you have to meet with a certain company, and they're the ones that provide you the machine. They're the ones that show you how to set it up. They're the ones that show you how to use it, how to clean it, all that shit, right? And it just took that long to get an appointment. So like I had that fitting in July. I didn't have the appointment with these people until November. No. October? No, November. It had to be November because I went back to I stopped working from home in October. I think it was November. I think it was actually like a week before my birthday, to be honest with you. So, but yeah. So like just that amount of time in between, and I was miserable. But by the time I got the machine and I started feeling better and I started sleeping better and I started being able to take control of my thoughts and everything again, I realized, just how dangerous sleep apnea really is. And then yes, it had to be November because my wife went into the hospital in October and she got diagnosed with sleep apnea, and I said I can't wait till I get my machine, and I said maybe we can let her use my machine, and then I was like no, because it's calibrated for you, and she went I'm like, I was kidding. But so yeah, it was definitely in November because she was in the hospital in October. So bam, see, I figured it out. Fucking laugh at me. It's rude, bitch. How rude. Anyway, let's take a look at a couple videos showing everybody just how dangerous sleep apnea really is. And
I just read a shocking new study that says up to 936 million people worldwide have sleep apnea. You heard that right, almost 1 billion people. That's literally 10 times the number we once thought. So in this video, I want to walk you through what sleep apnea actually is and how to tell if you might have it. Hey everyone, I'm Dr. Michael Bruce, the sleep doctor. Now, with sleep apnea, there's still a lot of misinformation out there, and many people don't even know what sleep apnea is or how it could be affecting them. So first off, what exactly is sleep apnea? Well, it turns out sleep apnea is when there's either a partial or complete stoppage of breath while you're asleep. That's right. You have sleep apnea where you actually stop breathing for a few moments. I know that sounds pretty scary, and that's why we're here to take sleep apnea seriously, and we want to get you treated sooner rather than later. But why you stop breathing during sleep comes down to whether you have obstructive sleep apnea or something called central sleep apnea. Central sleep apnea is a neurological issue where your brain actually tells your lungs, don't breathe. This is a very challenging issue to treat, but thankfully it's not as common as obstructive sleep apnea or what we call OSA. OSA happens to be when there is an obstruction of some kind that actually causes you to stop breathing. So maybe it's big tonsils, large adenoids. There's a whole host of physical or anatomical things that could be going on in the throat versus a neurologic thing where your brain is telling your lungs, don't breathe. But for it to be officially treated as apnea, you have to have a cessation of breath, which means stopping breathing for at least 10 seconds, followed by an awakening, and you might not even remember this. By the way, when I'm looking at sleep studies, sometimes it's longer than 10 seconds. I've actually seen somebody have sleep apnea for 60 seconds, 70 seconds, and sometimes we run in there to make sure that they're okay. Typically, these apneas occur because of a blockage caused by collapsed tissue found in the throat or in the upper part of the palate or the mouth. This can happen when muscles relax while you're sleeping, and it's actually the same mechanism that is used when snoring. It just goes a bit further. There's actually a pretty close connection between snoring and sleep apnea. As you fall asleep and those tissues collapse onto the airway, they make the airway smaller. The effect is similar to putting your finger over the end of a garden hose. All of that comes out faster, which means air moves faster. And so what happens is all that air is condensed into a smaller space, which makes it move faster. And now it's moving fast enough to vibrate those tissues and make that classic snoring noise. Let me pause for a moment and make it clear that not everyone who snores has sleep apnea. But it is common symptoms for upwards of 90% of people who do in fact have sleep apnea. All right, what are some other symptoms since snoring might not be the easiest way to figure this out? A lot of people think of sleep apnea as a big person's issue. As a matter of fact, you don't necessarily have to be overweight to experience disordered breathing. However, being heavier does oftentimes go hand in hand with sleep apnea, so it's certainly something to keep in mind. What else? Well, people with sleep apnea are often tired during the day because their body is waking them up sometimes hundreds of times during the night. They might also wake up in the morning with a dry mouth, headaches from heavy mouth breathing. They may have restless sleep at night, night sweats. They may get up to go to the bathroom a few times or wake up in the morning in a bad mood, depression, anxiety, things like that. All are things that trigger me to think maybe this person has sleep apnea. Now, normally, this is the part of the video where the host stops and says, hey, do me a favor, like and subscribe. I'm not gonna do that because instead, what I care about more is that you share this video. Think of someone you know who could have sleep apnea, may not know it, or even is just a heavy snorer. Send them this video. It's really important to me that we spread the word about this condition because like I said, almost 1 billion people out there have it, and most people have no idea. They're leading these depressed, sleepless, miserable nights, and we can help them. This is a treatable situation. So what are the causes of sleep apnea? Well, we've mentioned a few, but let's break them down. Age. As we get older, we have a far greater likelihood of having sleep apnea. In fact, when you look at the ratio of men to women, it used to be before age 50, men 2 times as likely to have sleep apnea as women. That changes as soon as women go through menopause and it becomes a 1-to-1 ratio. Now, why might that be? Well, one of the things we know is there's an increase in weight and hormonal fluctuations. We also know, and I think I've kind of beat this one up, anatomical features, right? So large tonsils, large adenoids, getting strep throat on a regular basis. Anything anatomically in here can definitely have a factor. And then, of course, substance abuse. We see a lot of people who use alcohol regularly to help them fall asleep. This just makes the situation significantly worse. So that's another thing that we're definitely looking for. Now, of course, there's things like nasal obstruction, right? So things like rhinitis, polyps, which are these kind of tissue, big pieces of tissue that kind of get up, jammed up in there. Deviated septum, that's the piece of cartilage in the middle is kind of wonky and goes all over the place. Something called hypertrophy of tonsils and adenoids, so a swelling. Also hypertrophy of your soft palate and your uvula, which is that, that piece of flesh that's kind of hanging down in the back of your throat that nobody really knows why it's there. Also, believe it or not, facial malformation. So we've got things like people who have certain disorders in terms of acromegalia, things of that nature can cause sleep apnea, and something called micrognathia. So that has to do with where's your chin. So you notice my chin is slightly in front of my lips. Well, some people have retrognathia, which means their chin is behind their lips, and some people have it in front. If you have it behind, that means all of that anatomy is displaced backwards. And guess what? There's a very high likelihood that you're going to have sleep apnea. Now, of course, we can't go by gut feeling alone. So that's when a sleep study comes in very handy. There are different types of sleep studies. Some of them are done in a laboratory where you come in and sleep for the night. They attach about 27 electrodes to your body and you're monitored while you sleep. To be honest, this can be a pretty invasive and not particularly comfortable. Thankfully, there are plenty of in-home testing services now that are pretty good at detecting sleep apnea just by having you wear several small sensors. A lot of them have something that you can put on your wrist and then it measures oxygen here. Maybe there's even a sensor for your chest with snoring, but it's not the 27 electrodes that we have in the lab. After you're done with that for a few nights, you send it back to the lab and they send you a report with a score on it. Based on that score, we can tell if you have sleep apnea or not because it's kept track of all the times that you've stopped breathing throughout the night. The cutoff for diagnosis is if you stop breathing 5 or more times per hour as you sleep. So a mild diagnosis is going to be between 5 and 15 times an hour. Between 15 to 30 times an hour, believe it or not, is only moderate, and 30 and above is severe. Okay, maybe I've convinced you that getting treated for sleep apnea is important, but you think, oh, geez, doc, what are they going to do to me? How are they going to fix this? Is it a pill? Is it surgery? To be fair, the number one intervention for sleep apnea at this point is something called a CPAP machine, which stands for continuous positive airway pressure. And to be honest, it's something that may take a little getting used to. Think of a vacuum cleaner in reverse that gently blows a stream of air to help you keep your airway all night. So basically what it does is it kind of goes up into your nose, and then when it hits that obstruction, it just ever so slightly opens it up and then sends air straight to your lungs. And believe it or not, you sleep through this whole process. This kind of treatment works 98% of the time. So it's incredibly effective. There are a few side effects. You got to get used to wearing a mask on your nose. It's not the most fun or sexy thing to wear at the night. And the mask that sits on your face and compressor that sits by your bed may make you feel like you're in a little bit of a hospital room. I tried one just so I could understand what it was like for my patients. And to be fair, it took me 3 weeks to get used to sleeping with one on, that being the mask and then actually air blowing. So if you're newly diagnosed, don't get discouraged because quite frankly, it takes a little bit of time to get used to the CPAP machine. There are some other options out there, and I know a lot of people are saying there's no way I'm gonna be able to wear a mask like that. That's okay, I get it. There are other options. There are oral appliances. These are specialized dental guards. They go over your upper and your lower teeth and they gently move your jaw forward just a few millimeters, popping open your airway just a bit. That gives you more space in the back of your mouth and throat so the air can move more freely through there without being obstructed by tissue. These appliances still take a little getting used to, but by and large, a dental appliance is much easier than a CPAP mask. But to be fair, in some cases, it might not be nearly as effective. I want to be clear, there are some cases where a mouth guard is equally as effective and probably better tolerated than a CPAP. Now, I'm going to talk about surgery. I'm mentioning this because maybe some of you have heard about it. I have to say, I'm not a huge fan. If it isn't done right, the procedure itself can feel quite barbaric and is often tissue that removed grows back. So I kind of call it the roto-rooter of the back of the mouth. But what they do is they carve out all of that tissue and it's a super vascular area. So this area requires a lot of healing, a lot of attention. It's not fun. But once you get all that out, it does have a tendency to work. The big problem is 50% of the time the tissue grows back. So I usually advocate for one of the other treatment methods that I've already mentioned. And I don't want to forget the importance of lifestyle changes, right? So simple things like diet, exercise can actually make a huge difference. Stopping smoking, cutting back on alcohol consumption, especially before bed, can slow this down. Now, if you've listened to this video and you think you might have sleep apnea, I'd actually suggest taking a home sleep test. They're really convenient. You can get your results fast. And since COVID, the price of them has dropped a ton. I've got some links below to one of my favorite home sleep tests that you can check out. Seriously, it's better to rule out if you have sleep apnea or not. Your health depends on it. For now, I'm Dr. Michael Bruce, the sleep doctor, wishing you sweet, unobstructed dreams. By far, the most alarming thing that I see in my practice is undiagnosed or untreated sleep apnea. Why? because sleep apnea is horrible for your body and it can drastically reduce your life expectancy. So in this video, I'm gonna walk through the dangers of undiagnosed or untreated sleep apnea. Hey everyone, I'm Dr. Michael Bruce, the sleep doctor. Sleep apnea is a potentially serious sleep disorder in which breathing repeatedly stops and starts throughout the night. Here's what's more alarming. 4 out of 5 people with sleep apnea don't even know they have it. That's right, folks. 80% of people with sleep apnea never get it diagnosed. Why? Because people are afraid of the treatments associated with sleep apnea, and that's due to a lot of misinformation. And this presents a real problem because people with sleep apnea, this is a 100% treatable situation, but you gotta do something about it. So my question to you is, do you want more energy during the day? Do you wanna be able to play with your children or your grandchildren? Do you want to avoid major health consequences? Those are the things that you get when you treat sleep apnea. By not treating your sleep apnea, you could be introducing a whole host of problems that prevent you from living the life you want and deserve. Let's start by talking about the cardiovascular damage caused by untreated sleep apnea. The constant lowering and raising of your heart rate that occurs during sleep apnea can cause the heart muscles to become thickened and stiff. This is called cardiomyopathy. Cardiomyopathies can make it harder for your heart to pump blood, which can cause shortness of breath, chest pains, swelling in the legs, ankles, and feet, even in the stomach area and even in neck veins, and bloating of the stomach due to fluid buildup. Sleep apnea also reduces the amount of oxygen in the blood, which can cause abnormalities in heart rate, such as cardiac dysrhythmias and what we call arrhythmias. This is what is commonly called an irregular heartbeat, which means your heart beats too fast or too slow. This can also lead to something called atrial fibrillation, which is an irregular and very rapid heartbeat. Atrial fibrillation can lead to blood clots in the heart. This condition also increases the risk of stroke, heart failure, and other heart-related complications. In addition, repeated drops in blood oxygen levels lead to strain on the nervous system, which in turn can harm blood vessels of the heart. This can cause persistent inflammation, which can lead to high blood pressure as well. All of this damage to the arteries can lead to heart disease over time. Heart disease is essentially a kind of a catch-all term for different disorders of the heart. Of course, heart disease, if left untreated, can result in some pretty serious conditions, including heart attack when blood flow to the heart is blocked. It can also lead to a stroke when blood flow to the brain is blocked, and both of these conditions, of course, are life-threatening. Now, let's talk about the respiratory risks of untreated sleep apnea. Pulmonary edema is definitely a big one. This is another potentially life-threatening condition where fluid builds up in the lungs, making it difficult to breathe. Sleep apnea can cause this condition through several different mechanisms. First is the oxygen deprivation, which again puts a strain on the nervous system. In this case, the strain can lead to retention of salt and water. Second, obstructive sleep apnea can trigger extreme negative intrathoracic pressure. Intrathoracic pressure is always negative in healthy people, but in OSA, it can create overly negative pressure in the space between the lungs and the chest wall. That change in pressure can actually draw fluid into the lungs, causing pulmonary edema. Pulmonary edema can cause shortness of breath, feelings of suffocation or drowning, fatigue, and rapid weight gain. Pulmonary hypertension is another serious condition that occurs when blood pressure in the lungs is higher than normal. When you have sleep apnea, not enough oxygen gets to the lungs, and you have vasoconstriction or less blood going into the vessels. Over time, when you've had long periods of constriction, pulmonary hypertension develops. This can not only cause shortness of breath, fatigue, and chest pain, but pulmonary hypertension can also cause a blue or gray color to your skin at low oxygen levels. Asthma too can be caused and worsened by obstructive sleep apnea. Again, it comes down to an issue of repeated stress to the nervous system. Plus, there's a swelling and irritation of the airway that can also trigger nighttime asthma attacks. Now, this is normally the part of the video where the host stops and asks you to like and subscribe. I'm not going to do that because instead, what I care more about is that you share this video. Can you think of someone you know that could have sleep apnea? Think about it. Now, push that share button and send them this video right now. You might save their life. Another thing that people don't think about are the metabolic risks of sleep apnea. So when OSA deprives the body of oxygen, it negatively impacts glucose levels in the blood, which in turn increases insulin resistance. What does that cause? You guessed it, type 2 diabetes. The insulin resistance leads to a variety of negative consequences that can include cardiovascular disorders and kidney disease. One of those complications can be weight gain as the body stores extra blood sugar as fat. The added weight can exacerbate the OSA symptoms, perpetuating this kind of washing machine cycle. Sleep apnea can also cause a decrease in serum leptin levels. Leptin is the hormone that makes you feel full. So if you have less feelings of full and end up eating more sugar, that makes the whole situation worse. Adding insult to injury, poor sleep from OSA can also lead to weight gain, as a lack of shut-eye can trigger the body to disrupt the typical cycles of hormones that signal the body when to eat. If left untreated, sleep apnea can also have a detrimental effect on, you guessed it, your sex life. Frequent nighttime awakenings can actually disrupt testosterone production. Low testosterone levels can create a number of sexual issues for men. For one, it reduces sex drive. A majority of men with sleep apnea, as many as 80% according to research, also have erectile dysfunction. There hasn't been as much attention paid by science to the relationship between sleep apnea and sexual dysfunction in women. That is a big problem that needs to be addressed, stat. But there is evidence that sleep apnea directly and negatively affects several aspects of women's sexual experience. Women are at risk for sleep apnea before menopause, but the risks for sleep apnea rise significantly for women once menopause transition has begun. An estimated 20% of women develop obstructive sleep apnea during menopause, and research indicates that somewhere between roughly half to 2/3 of postmenopausal women have sleep apnea. Finally, I want to talk about one of the biggest effects untreated sleep apnea can have on you, your mental health. Sleep apnea affects the brain in profound ways. For one, sleep apnea can cause a decrease in the neurotransmitter serotonin. Remember, low levels of serotonin can lead to depression. Not only that, but sleepiness caused by sleep apnea can contribute to fatigue, irritability, and difficulty focusing. This affects your daily life, making it harder to perform daily tasks, creating difficulty in thinking, and leading to memory problems, car accidents, you name it. It can also impact your personality. Recent studies have found a correlation between personality traits in patients with obstructive sleep apnea. The common traits include inactivity, lack of energy, low self-esteem, pessimism, guilt, and excessive daytime sleepiness. Recent studies have also found links between sleep apnea and early cognitive decline as well. All right, I know I've just delivered a lot of bad news, but I do have some good news. Sleep apnea is 100% treatable. You just need to find out if you've got it. If you ever snored or stop breathing in your sleep or wake up tired from what you call having a good night of sleep, you should probably get tested. Some more good news, it's even easier than ever to figure out if you have sleep apnea. There are the things now called HSTs, or home sleep tests. Since COVID, the price of these things has actually gone significantly down, and you simply order the test, take it at home, and find out within a few days if you've got sleep apnea or not. It's as easy as sleeping in your own bed. The way I think about it, what could it hurt to get tested for sleep apnea? If you're interested, I have links to my favorite HSTs in the description below. If you'd like to know more about sleep apnea, including causes, other symptoms, and treatments, check out my video right here. This is Dr. Michael Bruce, the Sleep Doctor, wishing you sweet dreams.
All right, so there you go. There's some very, very, very useful information about sleep apnea and how and why some people get it, some people don't get it, and how dangerous it can actually be. So why did I share this information with everybody? I mean, aside from the fact that it's something that I'm going through and it caused me to stop doing this show for a while, I want this new vision of Money's Crazy Mind to not just entertain, but if I can help somebody along the way, I mean, hey, I mean, that's kind of like the dream, right? I mean, if you can make a difference for one person, you're making a difference regardless. But the main reason that I shared it is for a lot of the reasons that he said in there, right? There's 1 billion people in the world that have it. And over half of them don't know that they do. And that's kind of the scary part, right? Because, like, my wife was just very recently diagnosed with it. And she was like, when it was mentioned. But when I was talking to her the night before, and they said that they were going to attempt a sleep study, I started thinking about all the things that she's had going on and the reason why she'd been in the hospital for 8 days. And she wasn't in the hospital at 8 days at that point, obviously, but her entire stay at that point was 8 days. 8 days. And when she was going over everything that, they were saying that they were going to do with the sleep study and all that, I started thinking about everything that they had been saying throughout the entire time. And I go, holy shit, it makes sense. Because a lot of what she was going through was mentioned in that video. In those videos. She was diagnosed with asthma. She'd been really tired. She sleeps a lot, more than I did when I was untreated. And I found that really strange, and I actually think hers might be more central than it is obstructive. I'd be really curious to look at her results, her sleep study results. But that's why I shared what I shared. We did have 2 other topics that I wanted to get to, but obviously the beginning of the show took a lot longer than I thought it would. And I wanted this sleep apnea portion of the show to be to be very informative and things like that. So the other 2 topics that we were going to share tonight, we'll actually put them into next week's show. So they'll be part of the new 52 for next week, week number 2. So until next week, everybody, I urge you, take care of yourself and take care of those that you care about. Thank you, Jerry Springer, for giving me those words of wisdom to close my show with each and every single week. I'm going to share the link to the Sleep Doctor's videos and also the link to the sleep study test the at-home sleep study test that he recommended in the video. But please, before you purchase, make sure you check with your healthcare professional first. On that note, have a week.
Money's Crazy Mind is proud to be a Nameless Faceless Productions and Blood for Money Pictures release.
That's all, folks.